No way he said this. A former Pittsburgh Steeler gives his take on the Steelers' head coaching position. My name is Peyton Kleppe, and on today's episode of Steelers Digest, we'll be breaking down the latest Pittsburgh Steelers reports and analysis regarding the Pittsburgh Steelers football team. As the Pittsburgh Steelers head coach has been under controversy, former Pittsburgh Steeler gives his take on the situation. Before we get into the latest reports, if you guys are not already currently subscribed to the channel, just click that subscribe button down below. Only 9% of our current viewers are actually currently subscribed to the channel. So if you click that subscribe button, we will get you the latest Pittsburgh Steelers analysis and news. Let's get right into it. So the Pittsburgh Steelers, a former safety of the Steelers, gives his take on Coach Tomlin and his position as the head coach. You know, Ryan Clark was a former Pittsburgh Steeler. This dude did win a Super Bowl with the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2008 when we went on that championship run with Big Ben, Troy Polamalu, Hines Ward, all those guys. Obviously, Santonio Holmes, crazy acrobatic catch, won the Super Bowl. But since Ryan Clark has retired, he's definitely been very critical of the Pittsburgh Steelers, their decisions, head coach Mike Tomlin, and all the different players. A few years ago, Ryan Clark was very critical of Antonio Brown, and looking back, rightfully so. Ryan Clark definitely shared his take on every issue that comes up, and he does not hold back. So on Coach Tomlin, he did say that, I believe that head coach Mike Tomlin is unfireable. He said this on ESPN, and he also said that, I believe if Mike Tomlin steps away from being a coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers, that's his decision and should be his decision. I've said that time again. I do believe that decision should be the one that he makes. This is a crazy take by Ryan Clark. I don't know where else Coach Tomlin would want to coach. There's been reports in the past that college teams have offered him a head coaching position, and, he's always fired him down. Coach Tomlin loves being the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers, and the Rumini family loves him too. And although some Steelers fans don't like head coach Mike Tomlin, this guy's been Mr. Consistency. Yes, we have been in the first round, exited, but there's been teams that would love to even get to the playoffs. Think about the Cleveland Browns. Think about the New York Jets. Think about the Jaguars. Teams like that, they haven't even reached the Super Bowl, and some teams even forever. The Jaguars have never even won a Super Bowl. I don't even know if they've even been to the Super Bowl, but, it's great to have a head coach that at least gets you to the playoffs year in, year out. And I think it's kind of messed up that Ryan Clark would definitely say this about his former head coach, but, Clark just continued to run his mouth, and he encouraged head coach Mike Tomlin and other NFL teams to, think about the idea. Clark did say that he encouraged his former coach to move on to another NFL team where he could be viewed as a fresh voice. He also suggested that the coach's message may no longer resonate with the current players in the Steelers locker room. I think that's a crazy take. Obviously, past couple of years, our locker room has been kind of hectic, but I don't think it's a matter of Coach Tomlin and the lack of respect towards him. I just think we've been dealt some crazy cards, some crazy wild cards, and definitely had some crazy talent and crazy personalities that Coach Tomlin has had to deal with. Obviously, we had to deal with one of the craziest personalities in NFL history in Antonio Brown. And, Mike Tomlin did handle him pretty well for about 8 years until Antonio Brown lost his mind thanks to Vontaze Burfict. But that's a whole nother topic. Clark then went on to say that, I believe that Mike Tomlin should coach in another organization, Clark continued. Mike Tomlin should be a fresh voice somewhere else because as a great head coach as he is, and he is a first ballot Hall of Famer, I believe his voice has run stale in Pittsburgh. I believe he's allowed that team to reach the highest of heights they're going to reach unless they can get a top-tier quarterback. And this might be true if you think about it, but what other head coach are we going to bring in that's going to be better than Tomlin? There's nobody on the market that I'd like better than Tomlin. There's nobody in the organization that I'd want other than Mike Tomlin. So although it is easy to discredit the guy and easy to say, yeah, we can move on from him, but where are you going to go, Ryan Clark? Are you going to come in and be the head coach for the Pittsburgh Steelers? Shoot, am I going to go in and be the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers? Obviously not. Coach Tomlin is a great head coach, and I think this is kind of messed up for Ryan Clark to be saying about him, especially because Coach Tomlin did coach Ryan Clark for many years, and he did give Ryan Clark a Super Bowl ring, or at least help him get there, So, I don't know. This is definitely a crazy take from Ryan Clark, and, ESPN in the article also did go on to say that, Mason Rudolph did leave the Steelers in the 2023 season, joined the Tennessee Titans, and he only threw 9 touchdowns against 9 interceptions in 8 games. So, this is tough for head coach Mike Tomlin. Obviously, he does kind of have a quarterback situation where it is kind of tough to find a number one starter, number one guy. Obviously, other than Mason Rudolph, we do have Skylar Thompson, a guy who has played in the playoffs in relief of Tua Tagovailoa. Did play pretty well in his relief, but obviously this guy's not a long-term starter. He's probably just a training camp quarterback, just being honest. And, we also have rookie Will Howard in the quarterback room. I do have high hopes for Will Howard, but, it is going to be tough in Pittsburgh. But I think these comments by Ryan Clark are definitely a little too critical. Obviously, Ryan Clark tends to make a lot of takes like this where he's very harsh against the Pittsburgh Steelers. But it's because he cares about the organization. Obviously, he's got a ton of love for Pittsburgh. He's always having Pittsburgh guys on his podcast. He's had Cam Hayward, TJ Watt, you name it, they've been on his podcast. So, I don't want to bash Ryan Clark, but he definitely makes some crazy takes about our Steelers football team and head coach Mike Tomlin. But, if you feel otherwise and you do believe head coach Mike Tomlin should be fired, shoot a comment down below and prove me wrong. But anyways, looking forward and looking on to the next part of our season as we head into minicamp, we are going to need a quarterback on this roster who's going to help us compete. Like I said, going into next season, we only have Mason Rudolph, Skylar Thompson, and Will Howard on our roster. So we're going to need at least one more guy to come in here and compete with us. And some names have been dropped. Kirk Cousins is a guy that's still on the market. Obviously, if we do get him, we'd have to make a trade for him, and we'd have to absorb a ton of cap money, and I don't think we really want to do that. I think that's a really desperate move, and I don't think the Pittsburgh Steelers will make it because we are not a desperate organization. I'm going to say that once again. We are not a desperate organization. We may have given Aaron Rodgers the key to our organization, but let him hold out this whole offseason, but we are not desperate. And if worse comes to worse, I could see Coach Tomlin rolling with Mason Rudolph and Will Howard if Aaron Rodgers does not make his decision within the next couple months, because it's definitely unrealistic for you to come in midway through the season or right after training camp and think that you're going to be the starter and you're going to be the starter for the rest of the season. And I think it's kind of selfish of Aaron Rodgers to be holding us hostage. There's a ton of other guys on the Steelers roster who are just, they're playing because this is their job. They're playing because they got a family. They want to honor their family. They want to honor their name, and they want to honor the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I think it's pretty selfish of Aaron Rodgers to be holding us accountable, holding us hostage, and not just signing the contract and coming into Pittsburgh and showing us what he's got. Because right now, we really don't have a ton of leverage over him, but we will have to see. Unfortunately, that's all I have for you guys tonight on Steelers Digest. If you guys are not already currently subscribed to the channel, click that subscribe button down below. Thank you so much. Here we go, Steelers. Peace out, boys.